So it looks like Creative Assembly has brought us an early E3 gift here. We've gotten a little E3 gameplay reveal of the Siege of Xiapi. Now, this is a really important siege in the whole history of the Three Kingdoms, of the Romance of Three Kingdoms. So let's kind of let this progress here, which we'll talk a little bit about the backstory, but we'll talk a little bit more about that backstory as it progresses.
Hello and welcome to the first look.
I mean, it already looks amazing. Like, look at the art direction, and look at the that repeating motif of like the ink blot kind of effect on papyrus, or not papyrus, Jesus Christ, on rice paper is really, really amazing. It's in the UI too here. So we know that he kind of just talked about this, but Dong Zhuo is now dead. Lu Bu was involved in his whole basic overthrowing and subsequent killing by betraying him. Now, this conflict here is pretty important. We talked a little bit about this at the end of our last video, but Lu Bu has this kind of tentative relationship with Yuan Shu, which is not Yuan Shao. Keep that in mind. They are related, though. Now, so this is the year 197. This is 2 years prior to this actual siege. And during that time, Yuan Shu has pretty much declared himself emperor, and he's told Lu Bu, like, hey, you know what, how's about my son marries your daughter, and that should make things a little bit stronger. So he initially agrees to it, then after like kind of thinking it through, and kind of he gets influenced by a lot of people, Chen Gui, Chen Deng, a lot of other people, and that essentially, like, throughout the whole entire siege and the 2 years after this, kind of influences what he does. He like, very little of Lu Bu's decisions are his own. He is a very, very good, amazing warrior, but I don't think that I've looked at Lu Bu as like this outstanding general, like this brilliant strategist. I always looked at him as someone who is a warrior, again, without peer, and someone who does inspire both fear and allegiance in his own troops, and fear of from other generals, factions, what have you. I mean, Cao Cao is actually quite afraid of Lu Bu, and he doesn't want to completely rally against him. So when they basically, when Lu Bu decides that he doesn't want to bring his daughter to Yuan Shu, he captures Han Yin and basically sent him to Zhu Chang, where Cao Cao executes him. And Cao Cao then says back to Lu Bu, like, hey, you know what? You're the general of the left. I approve of what you've done, because you have to remember here, Cao Cao is very opportunistic. He's a brilliant tactician. There's a reason he got so far, is because he was able to manipulate situations for and against him. Because what he does here is he brings Lu Bu into his fold, and he hasn't made any alliances with anyone else just yet that's going to influence this. But when we get a little bit further, you'll see how his alliance here with Lu Bu is just strictly, okay, let me eliminate Lu Bu as a threat to me right now. Let me basically, if we're thinking of this in total war terms, let me give him a non-aggression pact. So he makes him general of the left, and pretty much says, like, hey, you know, we're firm friends. They call it Xiapi. I always thought it was Xiapi.
Senses an opportunity to strike Lu Bu down before his strength becomes too great.
Now, again here, this does make it sound like, okay, Cao Cao is just rallying out to go attack Lu Bu. No thought put into this at all. It's very, very meticulous at this point, because Yuan Shu, it gets pissed off at Lu Bu. It says, whoa, this is a betrayal. So he sends an army after Xiapi to basically destroy Lu Bu, and it's a huge army. He basically plans to attack him from 7 different directions, and Lu Bu basically depends on the fact that there is a lot of like waning loyalty throughout the entirety of all of these generals. You've got like majority of them come in and out of whatever opportunistic relationship makes the most sense for them. So when this happens, Han Zhan and Yang Feng, who are 2 people from White Wave bandits, basically they defect from Yuan Shu and join Lu Bu, and it allows them to essentially fight off Yuan Shu when he goes to attack Xiapi. So this is that happens about a year or 2 before this actual siege of Xiapi with Cao Cao. I'm sorry this is such a wind-up, but it's important to know these things, because they make this battle here out to be like Cao 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 showed up at Xiapi and Lu Bu just bent over. Like wasn't like that. This is a prolonged battle. This whole siege took a year to actually manifest itself and go through the motions. In fact, after this point, Lu Bu makes peace with Yuan Shu. He's okay. Hey, you know what? Bygones be bygones. And he attacks Liu Bei, who we saw at the end of the last trailer at Xiapi. And when he does that, he basically pushes Liu Bei out of Xiapi and into Cao Cao's arms, more or less. So if you want to think of this, the last trailer picks up exactly where this would start. So Liu Bei now is under Cao Cao. We've already talked about that. And now they've combined forces to attack Lu Bu. Lu Bu is still a threat. So let's let this progress a little bit forward so we can actually see some gameplay too.
Defenders starved of resources. Cao Cao now senses the time is right.
So he's outside here for months and months and months on end. There's parts where, Cao Cao writes to Lu Bu saying like, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe you should just give up. And Lu Bu, there's a lot of times where Lu Bu considers, what should I do here? Should I
Lu Bu stands in the center, preparing to.
Should I actually surrender? What should I do? And he actually has like a bunch of plans that kind of go in and out throughout the entirety of this siege. And again, it is not just a one and done. This is months. So let's talk about this from an actual Total War perspective. So it looks not like Attila. I don't want to say that, but it uses the same kind of cool mechanic from Attila, where they have all the little symbols above them that correspond. We see this in Total War Warhammer, but not to this kind of simplistic, minimalistic view. And look at the UI itself. Super simplistic and very minimalistic, but also it is a bit big. I mean, these elements are huge. But I think that this is telling us that this is the romantic view. And as we see this gameplay trailer play out, we will definitely know that this is the romantic view. But I think that the romantic view is supposed to emphasize these characters, Cao Cao right here as well. And I really love, like, when I press play, watch these the edges and all the UI elements that kind of evolve out.
We have Cao Cao, the legendary commander,
we're on
leading his men
today.
into battle.
Doesn't feel like it, right?
We're going for a two-pronged approach. Cao Cao shall lead his forces through the breach, while Yi Jin will march his forces to the gatehouse and smash through and take the main concourse. But before we move forwards, we need to lay the groundwork for our assault.
Chinese did invent the trebuchet, so that is important to know.
Raise their walls to the ground.
And it looks like this obviously doesn't use the Total War Warhammer 2 siege engine. And that's something that we've seen from some of the articles that have been released here. It looks like we're going to be getting back into the Rome siege engine with collapsible walls, really in-depth sieges.
Let's take a look at these heavy spear guard. They're currently in the turtle formation, using their tall shields together,
so good,
with the flag bearers in the center to protect from missile fire, which will greatly aid us in this assault.
I love this era of ancient Chinese armor and warriors. It's super ornate, really heavy armor, almost looks like cataphracts that you would see in Middle East, but a lot of lemlar and stuff like that. And I really love the armor direction that they decided to go with this.
Here we have one of our generals under Cao Cao. Different generals can recruit different kinds of units. These two,
which is really cool here. And okay, you can see the stat card: melee toughness, missile toughness, melee power. Melee power. What the hell? Melee power.
Who are leading their forces together. Yi Jin is a guardian type hero, our combat master who excels in the heart of battle.
That's sick.
Tanking and soaking up damage.
That's
While
so
our strategist
awesome.
is not great in a fight, he is incredibly useful for debuffing enemy units and allows us access to unique formation types.
And that's really cool here because we do know that some of the articles have stated that, formations are locked per character. And we know that certain strategists used formations that other strategists didn't use, or those formations that would counter certain formations in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So we know it to be a lot more complex than just simply, hey, let's move these rectangles of men at each other. You had it was like the walking turtle, the flying crane. Like these were all actual formations that were used against each other's forces to try and counter each other. A lot of the conflicts, the wars that were fought in Romance of the Three Kingdoms was basically a live action chess game or Go against strategists. It's always very romantic to read how the strategists kind of counter each other and do things. You see this a lot, and when you see movies like God of War, when you see Redcliffe and how they talk each other's actions out, like, oh, he's going to do this, it's going to be like this, and you kind of get the semblance here that they're trying to replicate that.
To make our great assault on the settlement. Cao Cao and his retinue are going to move up.
If we can watch here at these units, it's going to show that they're taking fire. Watch.
Is a commander, and
you see like little arrows kind of going on. That's really, really cool. I think that's awesome.
Buffing up nearby allied troops rather than wading into combat themselves. So we won't be seeing him being the first through the breach.
So the UI is a little more. It's less static. That's probably a better word of putting it. You know, we can see that it's spring. We can see how many units we fielded. I like that the numbers aren't just simply red for combat, or there's an icon here. I like how it just kind of glows softly in and out, how we see the arrows moving on the character portraits and everything like that.
We will instead be pushing up the Yellow Dragons. They are being supported by the Azure Dragons, a hybrid heavy spear and missile infantry unit.
Oh man.
They will first hold back and fire over the walls with their bows, and once they've spent all their ammunition, they will join in on the front line. Let's move our heavy spears forward to climb the walls. Now is the time to press the attack. Getting the Azure Dragons firing, and now charging forwards with the Yellow Dragons.
Is there a heart beating
Oof, I like that.
Is there a brain inside that
Jing Liao is one of my favorite characters from Dynasty Warriors. I'm sorry, guys. I know that's like kind of like frowned upon when it comes to actually talking about the true history of this, but man, I love that. But I like to hear how we're getting a narrative coming out of these characters that we haven't seen in, since like Rome, I feel like, when we actually have those. Did Rome have the pre-battle speeches, or was that Empire was the last one, or Shogun, I think. But I like how we get the narrative from these guys here.
These heavy-hitting axe units are a formidable foe for anyone they go up against. They will make very short work of these spears.
You have the glaive infantry too, the Guandong, I think is the name of it. Same weapon that Guan Yu uses.
Let's check up on the center attack.
Brilliant
the
camera
settlement
work.
is now on fire from the barrage of arrows, and our men are getting.
I love how they're just like leaping up here. So sick.
Yes.
Look at the graphics on like the walls and everything. Like things look really good. They look very polished, and I'm really excited for this engine. I don't know if it's just a souped up Attila engine or what it is, but it looks really good. I'm hoping it's a brand new engine because Attila doesn't look this pretty.
Cousin, we come to aid you. We ride with fury at our back.
Our reinforcements have arrived. This huge mass of cavalry will be the perfect thing to break Lu Bu's men. We'll charge them into this spear infantry. They're going to knock these guys flying and destroy their morale.
So spear infantry may or may not be as effective against heavy cavalry. Who knows? Maybe you have to have heavy spears against heavy cav. Maybe you have to have matching kind of army profiles, heavy to heavy, light to light. Because I think maybe these are light spearmen and they just can't deal with a heavy heavy cav charge.
Led by Xiao Dun.
Okay, Xiao Dun. I pronounce it Xiao Dun, so I don't know how to pronounce this. But he actually starts this fight pretty much. Like in the very beginning of the siege, he's here. He's here with Liu Bei, so he doesn't like come in right as a Rohan at the last second here.
He was shot in the eye by an arrow in battle against Lu Bu. He pulled it out. His eye still attached to the arrow.
True story.
Proceeded to eat it.
So here's a cool fucking thing. I'm excited for this. The duel mechanics. So watch this.
So we're going to challenge to a duel. Duels are a new feature for Three Kingdoms, where the two heroes will duke it out in single combat until one either dies or retreats. Duels can help you single out an enemy combatant and take them out and turn the tide of battle.
Like, look at those animations. Like, I love that. Look at that. Oh, he threw his own spear at him. Oh my god. I feel like I'm watching a martial arts movie.
This battle is...
So, hopefully, we will get more of this battle. Maybe I'm hoping this isn't just the end here, because what actually happens is that... I'll just kind of keep reversing this back here while I talk, because you guys can watch it at that time. So what actually happens is Cao Cao directs the rivers of Yi and Shi rivers in to flood Xiapi. And Xiapi actually like gets completely flooded for like a month and a half before Lu Bu eventually surrenders. And when he surrenders, Cao Cao hangs him, he executes him, and turns a lot of his generals into generals within his army, including Zheng Liao, my favorite. That his twin axes were able to be put to use in Cao Cao's army. But I'm really excited to see how this plays out here. We have a whole week of E3 coming up. Hopefully we'll get more and more goodies out of Creative Assembly as to what all this really means. It looks like these symbols here are blocking. Let's back up a little bit. These symbols are corresponding to blocked streets. So maybe you can kind of like use those ahead of time and control the flow of a siege warfare and where people can actually move through, so you can actually push them into a kill box or a place where they're kind of corralled into for some easy killing. But guys, I'm really excited to find out more about this battle. If we talk about this battle more, or if we talk about another one, I'm excited to talk more about the history of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. A lot of you guys have asked me what you can read. You can actually just read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms if you want to learn. It's super dense and kind of like reading like Deuteronomy, because it is a lot of just like a lot of lineages and stuff like that. There is Yi Jiang Ji. What is it? Ying Jiang Ji. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. But that basically translates to Records of Heroes. That's another really good one. There's a lot of stuff that basically takes the Romance of Three Kingdoms and turns it into the quote-unquote English vernacular, but it also is still pretty dense. So you kind of just have to wade your way through it and see what you can find. But hopefully you guys get a really good idea of what's coming out here, what this actual conflict means in the history of the Romance of Three Kingdoms, and hopefully it gives you a better idea of what's to come. And I'm super excited to see what's to come. Hopefully we'll find out in our next video what happens here, because after this, Liu Bei and Cao Cao end their relationship. So you can see, like I was saying earlier, the relationship for Cao Cao is entirely opportunistic. Is it going to be beneficial for him? Okay, we're allies right now until I decide to betray you because you're stronger than me. Cue Lu Bu. So again, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below on my terrible pronunciation of things, as well as let me know how excited you are about the upcoming Three Kingdoms. But have a good one and take care.